Well, here we are in the last week of October. We have potentially a couple of decent days this week, and I thought it'd be an opportunity to go out for what could be the final ride of the season. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to do a recap of how this season went. So stay tuned. So this is coming up to the end of my second riding season. Last season, my first, last year, was all about learning how to ride, getting to know my motorcycle, and slowly doing a little bit more. I spent a lot of time in parking lots, doing low-speed drills. Spent a lot of time riding around the city, and occasionally I ventured out onto the highway. And I rode about 7,000 kilometers in my first season. That went from the end of May until the end of October. This season, my second, started in the middle of March. And from then until now, end of October, I've ridden 14,000 kilometers. So double what I did last year. So I thought I'd talk about some of the highlights of this, my second season. One of the biggest highlights is that I got to ride a lot more. I got a lot more experience. I got a lot more comfortable with my motorcycle. And the more comfortable I've been getting, the more I am loving this machine. It confirms that I absolutely made the right choice in buying this 2019 MT-07. And hopefully soon I'll be able to do a review, a 21,000 kilometer review of it. So the big highlight was I got a lot more experience. I got to know my motorcycle, I got to know myself, and I got to see what we could do together and how much fun we can have. One of the other highlights of the season was I started this YouTube channel that you're watching now. I started it back in February. So technically it wasn't part of the riding season, but it was in preparation. And I actually had some videos from the previous year that I was learning how to process and post onto the channel. And also this year I have upped my game a little bit with the motovlogging equipment. I started off with an older GoPro Hero 3 that I got years ago that served me quite well. And this summer I upgraded to a GoPro Hero 8 Black, which is what you're watching now. A much superior camera. And I played around with equipment to try and maximize the recording, get the best sound I can, and the best video that I can. But I'm not going to focus on that today. Another big highlight, really big highlight from this past year, was I went on my first big road trip. I went on a trip of over 5,000 kilometers from here in Saskatoon all the way out to the west coast to Tofino. So 5,000 kilometers. And I've already posted some videos from that trip, but I have a lot more that I'll talk about in a minute. Talk about getting to know your motorcycle. Nothing like a road trip like that, through all kinds of roads and all kinds of geography and geology. It was fantastic. And I'll do a description of the touring setup I had for that trip. So that was a really big highlight. And it showed me how much I love riding a motorcycle. At the very start of it, I thought I was crazy to go off on a trip like that, on a motorcycle like this. But I couldn't have had more fun. Another big highlight that I had was after coming back from the trip, I went and took my road test. And I passed. And I was very happy with that. I've heard a lot of people fail the first time. So I was pleased that I passed. I made a few little mistakes, but nothing major. So it means now that I have graduated from a learner to a novice 1, and it means I have fewer restrictions. And actually, one of the first things I did after passing the test is I went out for a ride in the evening, in the dark, because I was allowed to. And it was a lot of fun. It was very quiet. It was a quiet Sunday evening, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. So now what I have to do is go incident-free until next August, which is a year from when I did the test. And then I move up to a novice 2, which removes even more restrictions. And then a year from that, I have an unrestricted license. So that will feel good. Another big highlight of this season was that I found and became part of a riding group in the area. And it's been fantastic. I found it through the app Tunnit and managed to connect with people, and I've been out with them on quite a few rides. And if the weather holds up, I might get to meet up with a couple more for perhaps one last ride, if this is not my last ride of the season. So it's been really good because there's a lot of camaraderie, lots of different bikes, all kinds, from sport bikes to big cruisers. Really good people, a lot of fun, lots to talk about, lots to do, and share the joy of motorcycle riding. So I'm looking forward to next season, to getting out with them more often. I didn't join them until after I passed my road test, so that wasn't until August. So I'm looking forward to a full season of riding with my newfound brethren. Another thing that happened this season, I'm not going to call it a highlight because I didn't enjoy it, is going down the stairs one day, I slipped and fell and landed just right onto my right shoulder. And it hurt a lot. So I thought maybe I should have a doctor look at it. So I went to see a doctor, and she told me just to take it easy, give it some rest, and if it didn't start feeling better in a couple of days, to come back. So a couple days later, it did not feel better. I went back, and this time I got an x-ray and discovered that I had torn the ligament at the acromioclavicular joint of my shoulder, the AC joint. It's the ligament that holds the collarbone to the scapula. That's why it hurts so much. And what the x-ray suggested was that it was a level 2 separation, which on the scale of things is not too bad. It goes from 1 to 5, where 1 is an incomplete tear of the tendon, and 5 is a complete separation of the joint and bones sticking up almost through the skin. It wasn't that bad. But the unfortunate part was the doctor told me, put your arm in a sling, keep the joint immobilized, and you can count on 4 to 6 weeks of recovery. That was not the news I wanted to hear, because this happened on October 1st. And I knew the riding season was about to run out. And my first thought wasn't the pain. My first thought was, my riding season is done. And that was depressing, because I wanted to end my riding season on my own terms, not based on some silly little accident. So I kept my arm in the sling, and after a couple of weeks, the pain was subsiding. I was taking anti-inflammatories and painkillers, and the pain was subsiding. So I managed to start some stretches, which were recommended. And the amazing thing is, in that 3rd week after the accident, my shoulder started to feel better and better every day. And by the end of that 3rd week, it felt good enough that I actually was able to go for another ride. And this is one of the benefits of the motorcycle I have, this MT-07. With the upright position, I'm not bearing a lot of weight on my shoulder. And so it actually wasn't aggravating the injury. And in fact, what it did was got me to learn to squeeze the tank with my knees and be able to relax my arms and shoulders a little more. The great news for me was my riding season was not over. And in fact, this is my 4th ride now since I got back to it about a week and a half ago. So I've been able to get out again and enjoy these last few days. One of the things that bothered me was about 3 or 4 days after the injury, we had some unseasonably warm weather, and I was getting a lot of messages from the group to go out for a ride. I felt like the little kid who wasn't allowed to go out and play baseball because I had piano lessons. So those are some of the fun things and not so fun things that happened to me over this past riding season. I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. And what it's done is actually increased my passion for riding. I just want to do it more and more. Even on that long trip, after an 11-hour day, I wanted to keep riding. So this weekend, it'll be time to change the oil, clean the chain, clean the bike, make sure the tire pressure is good, get the wheels off the ground, put it on a battery tender, and cover it up. And then I'll need to find distractions to get me through till next March. Fortunately, I have hundreds of gigabytes of video to process from the road trip. So I'll be getting to work on those and posting those to the channel. And I'll start to think about what the trip will look like next year. The other thing I want to do next year is, of course, get more experience. I would really like to find an advanced skills course. Although I think they're few and far between where I live, but I would really like to do that because I want to get more experience and I want to get better and safer at riding. I'd also like to see if I can inspire some of the people in the riding group to do low speed drills on a regular basis. I did manage to have one person come out one of the times I did it, and we had fun. What I would do is follow the belt system that Moto Jitsu has, because I think it's very good, it's very structured, and it yields very good results. So I'm going to try to inspire some of those people to do that and try to have fun doing it. So that pretty much sums up season 2, and I'm looking forward to season 3 next summer and a lot more. So I hope you enjoyed this. Safe riding, enjoy the winter, and to you people that live in the southern climates where you have an all-year riding season, I'm very jealous. I'll be watching your videos as the snow piles down where we live here. Take care. Bye-bye.